I'm sitting there going like, okay, so you know how guys always joke around about having your customer service voice?
Yes.
Like you talk to guys like this or like people on a general basis. And then the minute like I'm at work, I'm just joking and shooting the shit with them. And the minute I answer the phone, I'm like, hello?
Yes.
Oh, yes, ma'am. And like you completely change your entire voice. And it seems like almost your demeanor. And they're like, who the fuck is that?
Right?
It's
or
funny.
in a fight, and then like someone comes up and you're like, hey, how are you? And you just were like, you motherfucker. Yeah.
That's how my mom was when I grew up. So my mom
We
would
can
be
do
yelling
it.
at us. She's like, if you don't shut the fuck up, I'm going to take you out to the car and slap you with the stick. And then she'd be like, oh, hey, Barbara, how's it going? Oh, I'm going great, you know? And I'm like, you are fake as fuck.
Kids, you know? Yeah.
Kids will be kids.
Meanwhile, I know.
Give me a look. But I think it's funny. So I'm like sitting here talking to you, and all of a sudden you're like, "Hey, Cuddy, like blah blah blah." I'm like, "Who the fuck is this?" And I love it though.
It's weird for me to do it.
It's your customer service. It's our. We all have a customer service voice, or in some regard, it's considered the voice that you use when you want something.
Yes.
You know, it's either or, right? It's to be
100%.
It's to be polite and professional at work or in a work environment, or it's because you're trying to get something.
Yes. And I always walk into another room if I'm talking to like somebody that's like doing work on the house or something like that, because I sound to myself just like a fake ass bitch.
You're like,
but
I sound ridiculous.
I'm doing what I gotta do.
Yeah, you're being nice. You're being
professional,
respectful,
right?
And polite.
And I want them to show up.
Yeah.
Can you please come? Don't not come.
I wouldn't say it's fake. I would say it's really you, and you're just being nice.
Exactly.
You're putting the nice face on.
Yeah.
You don't want to be like, hey, like you're not gonna talk.
Can
to
you
somebody
imagine?
like, hey, dude, can you like put that shit in the carpet like over there and like.
I'm talking to Colgan. I'm like, what up, Colgan?
Yeah, what up,
what you up to, bro?
Where's my water, man?
He's like, ma'am, we're trying to, and I think it's them too, because they'll be like, ma'am, and then I'm like, oh. I have to be a ma'am now.
Game
Do you know what I
face
mean?
on.
Yeah.
Sure.
If they were just like, hey, like I have had people like that work on the house. Like there's this like surfer dude that did the granite, and he'd be like, what up? And I'm like,
hey.
And then I'm like, hey, what's up?
You got the vibe. Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I'll see you. See it too. Whatever, dude. And I'd say like, dude, and text him like, see ya, buddy.
Yeah.
But when they go, ma'am.
There's some people that you can do that, get away with that with, though. Others,
Exactly.
no. Oh yeah, the minute you hear ma'am,
I got to be a ma'am. Mm-hmm. And I was just a ma'am at the beginning of this.
And I'm proud of you. Ma'am.
Thanks so much, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
You better be a ma'am for the rest of
I know. That episode. Can you imagine? We'll have you do a whole episode in that. Actually, my favorite voice of yours is the one that you did at the very beginning of the episodes. If you guys haven't listened, listen to those. But it was like the white, prestigious, like, oh, hello.
Oh, the old Hollywood actress.
Old Hollywood, yep.
Gertrude. Oh, Tiffany.
Yeah.
Tiffany, isn't this gorgeous? Now, do you see these plants that they have? Oh, wow. Now, are those real? No, that's dust on there. They look real,
Judy
though.
Garland too, or like that whole era.
Yeah, because then you could like say really fucked up stuff, but you're like sound very prim and proper.
I was literally talking to my buddy yesterday. I was like, I want an Australian or a British accent so I can curse at people and still sound polite.
Yeah, or
like, oh, you bloody bitch! What the fuck were you doing?
Right?
Like, I'm terrible at accents, but
if you had one, did you ever watch Arrested Development?
A
little bit. So there was one episode where I think it was Jason Bateman's character was dating Charlize Theron, but she had a British accent, so he didn't realize that she was actually mentally retarded. And they dated for like a really long time. Yeah. And then they did like a flashback of like scenes that he thought were like so cute and quirky.
But
it was actually like But when you're British, right? And she was like really surprised about everything and like excited. And he was like, oh my God, just her zest for life. And like, she's so intelligent. And they were like, she's a little slow, right? It was perfect because that's exactly what you're saying, which is like, you could do whatever you want.
Anything.
And it makes you seem
I agree.
Smart, intelligent, traveled.
Yeah.
Even if you've only been there. But
Correct.
anyway.
I feel like there's a reason why
Australian gets a little bit annoying sounding.
Sure.
It can be real aggressive.
I feel like that's, so you know how we have just, the normal English language.
Yeah.
But then you have like the country twang, swang, like the Alabama, like.
Sure.
To me, I feel like all Australian accent is like the more, like
and there's different variations,
right? Because some of them, they can sound kind of like rough around the edges.
Oh, they can be from the outback, or they can be from like
like the more
Sydney.
bougie area.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's the difference.
I feel like with a guy, okay, I'll take that back. With a guy that accent's sexy, I would want a British one as a female, but as a guy,
Yeah.
Because
when girls are like, oi, you're like,
oh, I can see that now.
But with guys, sure, fine.
I mean, Australian girls are fucking hot. They can get away with it, though.
Margot Robbie, I know.
They're all gorgeous.
So that was a lot of broad, sweeping stereotypes. And that's what we give you here on this show. And like, look, we know what we know. We like what we like. If you don't like it, bye-bye. But anyway, so our last episode we did, and a couple episodes we've been doing some like single stuff. A lot of our advice has been from like single, and there's just a lot of,
there's a lot of single girls out there.
That's just how it goes.
You're either single or you're fucking married.
Single, married, or like divorced or whatever. Living with someone, I don't know. But we haven't done very many, even when we were both married, I don't even think we did a lot of like marriage stuff where it's like marriage advice and like that kind of stuff. Yeah. So we're kind of going to get into that a little bit, like stuff you found. I'll probably either debunk all of it or be like, oh shit, is that what I'm supposed to be doing? I'm not sure. Yeah. I'm not sure.
That's the thing too, is like, I feel like everyone and their mom has marriage advice. I feel like sometimes it's very subjective.
Right.
And it really depends. Like it could be great advice that will work for you, but it might not work for other people.
Exactly.
Or it might be something you don't agree with, because we all have our own opinions. Everyone's different.
And everyone's marriage contract is different, right? Like, is your contract that you're a stay-at-home mom and then you want to work? Or is your contract that you guys both work and now you want to stay home? Or like, there's all these things that like you work out in the beginning. Yes. And that's different for everyone, where it's like, we're not going to, we're going to both travel a lot, right? That's a different contract than what someone else would have. So marriage is a tricky one, because you're right. Everyone's contract is different, and whatever works for you, as long as it's not abusive and you're not feeling like whatever is fine.
There's some foundation to to most marriages, right? Not all, still. Yeah. But it's sort of like a basis, like a foundation. But then like we also are going to go into like advice from people who've been married for a while. And that's great. It might be what works for them, but not particularly for you. But it's good to hear things and go, oh, I never thought of it that way. Maybe I can apply this, or hell no, I'm not going to do that. Or
I think it's good, because you can take, as with anything, you can take kind of a kernel, or it might come up later where you're like, oh shit, I remember.
That's my biggest thing. That's why I like. He's even talking about this shit, because then later on you might use it for something.
It comes up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do we got?
So, well, the big thing that I always hear, and that a lot of people talk about, whether it's marriage counselors, therapists, experts, even just people who've been married for a long time, is that women want one thing and men want another thing in marriage, right? Or just in life, I guess, in relationships. So women want to be loved, while men want to be respected.
Right.
That's like the big thing that you
always hear. But don't you want to be
Sure, but I'm saying like,
oh, as far as our like main...
Sure, like that's the main one, right? And I think for women, that if we feel love...
We respect.
We feel respected in ways too. And therefore we respect them. And then if men feel respected, they in turn love us.
That makes sense.
Do you see what I mean? And then they feel loved.
I will say that with marriage, like it is a real reaction-action situation. Like everything is a direct result of something that the other person...
It really is.
Did or said or whatever throughout that day, and you just kind of give it back and forth.
Yeah.
But
I mean, so you always hear the whole like marriage is 50-50 or the marriage is whatever. Marriage is 100-100.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, let's be realistic with this too. You're not always going to be putting 100% in each day. You just try.
Right.
But it's not like I meet you halfway, you meet me halfway. It's like I'm going to give you all I got. As much as I can.
And I hope that you do the same.
And I hope you do the same.
And after a while, if I find that you're not, then we figure it out.
Obviously, this is a problem. Yeah. Right. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of figuring out before that. And then, yeah. But so the big thing that this guy was saying, too, is that how do you make your person feel loved, right? When he was talking about love and respect. And we talked about this a few times on the podcast. And I mentioned this, like, I've read this book multiple times. I've tried it out myself. I know a lot of people recommend it. Is the 5 love languages.
Yeah.
So there's 5 different love languages. Now, here's the thing. We all have like a primary, maybe even a secondary. That is what we want the most. Yeah. However, just because someone like their love language might be physical touch doesn't mean they don't need all the other ones. They still do. Yeah. It's that's just their primary. Yeah. So if you were to show them one that primarily will be it, but they still need the other ones too. You don't just like fucking forget about them.
Yeah.
So there's 5 of them. Number 1 is quality time, right? And I think that definition depends on the person too. I know sometimes with guys, if they, they sit next to their spouse on the couch and they're watching a movie together, to them that's quality time. Where I feel like for women, it's a little bit different. A woman wants to feel connected when she's talking to her spouse or her loved one and they're talking and interacting. That for her is the quality time because there's no distractions.
Right.
So, there's going to have to be
so quality time can
there.
be different for, and yeah.
Physical touch, which by the way is not always sexual.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing too. Like just because someone's obsessed with sex doesn't mean physical touch is their love language.
So this is something that I hear a lot from married women and that I deal with too, where it's like, can you just like cuddle without trying to fucking have sex, right? But
can
that's
you touch
just like
me, make out with me without me,
or even just like sitting and watching TV with your arm around me or touching whatever.
Fucking rub my feet, kiss on, yeah.
Christina P talks about that, like with her husband, where she's just like, sometimes I just want to be hugged without you, like. I mean, even if you have a boner, just figure it out.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because that's not what I want to do.
Because,
right
well, here's the thing. When it starts getting to the point to where your person is they're touching you, and every single time they touch you, they only are trying to have sex with you, you now get to a point where you're feeling used.
Right.
In a way.
Or you're just like, this is what you want, and I'm going to tell you what I want. Can we do both sometimes?
Sure. But what I'm saying is if the only time they touch you is when you're trying to have sex, and you kind of like, what's up?
Yeah.
So physical touch, acts of service is the third one, right? So, like, I mean, think about anything. Like, you take out the trash. Like, some people like take out the trash. It's like, oh my God, thank you God.
Yeah.
Like, hey, let me watch the kids. Hey, let me do this and let me do that. Things to serve your spouse. Receiving gifts is the fourth one, and some people are really big on that. Like, they absolutely love vacations and all the things, or just even tiny little gifts or flowers.
But I think the gifts are like.
Sometimes
it
it's
means
sentimental.
something else, right?
But
where it's like, that means you thought of me. That means, so that could be a couple different ones where you're like, it means that you thought about me. It means that you were like wanting to show me whatever.
Correct.
But yeah.
Like you start complaining about earbuds, right? Like you need new headphones, and all of a sudden, like a week later, they show up with headphones for you, and you're like, hey, I remember you told me that you needed some new ones. Yeah, and they're like,
it was quality time. Yeah. It was whatever. So it's like a bunch of things together.
And then the last one is words of affirmation. There are some people who need the constant, like, I love yous, I think you're amazing, you're gorgeous, you're wonderful, and they need a lot of the words. They need a lot of reassurance, and that's totally fine.
Right.
In the more verbal way instead of like physical. So that's the thing. It's like there's a quiz that you can take online to figure out what your primary love language is, and then maybe even your secondary.
Yeah. And
here's the thing too, is we have a tendency to love in our love language. Like, so
because that's what we want.
What we know.
Yeah.
So do you know what yours is?
I don't, but I could probably say acts of service and gifts.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Because quality time right now, because I have kids, it's just like few and far between. So any time that we have is quality time, and it is what it is. We're just not going to get more of that. So now if you do things like, say like, I appreciate you and you did so,
yes,
the house looks great, stuff like that. For now is what it is, but it's been different.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It does
times.
change. Because the last time I took this was like in my first marriage, so it was a little bit different. I don't even know if it was different. I gotta be honest, but I know it will, alter throughout the years.
Yeah, mine
100% is quality time.
Quality time and acts
and then
of
physical touch.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I'm like,
I feel like in your last relationship though, it was like, if you just fucking swept the floor, it would be.
Well, because I was also asking for the bare minimum though. Do you know what I mean?
So that wasn't acts of service. That was just like, do your part.
That was just be a partner with me. You know what I mean? Like, and at that point, I just took whatever I could. But in my last marriage, I'm very, like, I love when men are very physical with me.
Yeah.
When I feel like I'm not being used for sex. I feel so loved when they want to touch and kiss and be all about me.
And not just like.
And not when it's just like, let me just fuck you.
Yeah,
and it got to the point where it was like that. And I would articulate it. I was like, listen, I love kissing you. I love when you touch me. I don't want it to always feel like you're just trying to fuck me though. Or have sex or whatever.
Right.
Like, because of that. And if it is because of that, touch me all day long, but don't make me think that it's because you're just trying to have sex. Like, do it from a loving place, which is hard. So, but those are my two biggest ones. I know. So, but I probably should take the testing in here and figure it out. Yeah. So, for example, like if I'm talking to someone and I'm giving them quality time because that's my love language, but that's not theirs, they're not going to feel loved by me because I'm not giving them the love in their particular language. Yeah. So that's the hard part. Because you might think all day long, right? So for a guy, so yours is acts of service. Right. But let's say he's giving you words of affirmation. Because his is words of affirmation. Right. So all day long, he's telling you how great and wonderful you are. And you're like, you're some motherfucker. I just need you to do a few things for me and I will feel loved. Yeah. Yeah. But he's not.
Stop telling me.
But he doesn't understand. Yeah, he's like, dude, I'm loving her. I'm telling her all day long how amazing and wonderful she is.
So maybe that's an interesting point too, is like whatever someone's doing for you, that's basically them telling you what theirs is. So like if he keeps doing that, then that's clearly what he wants from me. So it's a way of doing it because not all guys are going to, like my husband's not going to read the book. Sorry. He's not going to take the test, whatever. So, so if you do it, if you're into it, then that's how you could find out. Yeah. Is be like, what do they do most for you? That means that's what they want.
Yeah. And then just articulate to them what you like. That's all we can keep doing. So apparently this is like a huge thing in marriages is that we have the tendency to love each other in the way we like to be loved. And so therefore sometimes your spouse or your partner does not feel loved by you. And that becomes an issue. That now creates a lot of problems, resentments, whatever else.
Look, I've had these issues with friends because like how I deal with like, for example, either being depressed or something hard happening to me is I just shut off communication. I stay home. I like figure it out myself or get to a place at least to where I can talk about it. Because when I'm in it, I don't. Do you know what I mean? So that's how I deal with it. I'm not saying it's healthy. I'm just saying that's how I deal with it. So like when I've had a friend that had like something happen, I like gave her space. Sure. Because that's what I wanted. And that she took that as like me not. Do you know what I mean? And I would reach out. I just wasn't like all up in her business or showing up at her house or whatever. I guess what she wanted. But
and maybe her love language is quality time. Yes. So therefore, when you shut that off from her, she didn't feel that love by you anymore.
Right. But I was like, I was being a friend to her the way I would want someone to be a friend. Yeah. So, and that doesn't always work.
That makes sense. One thing you just said that kind of unlocked a memory for me a little bit was someone was saying that you can also figure out what your love language is by whenever you going through a really hard time, what is like, okay, so let's say if yours is receiving gifts, right? Mm-hmm. If you're going through a really rough time and you start like just spending and like buying stuff because it makes you feel good, right? Yeah. Like they were saying that that's because maybe yours is like the way you shut down or the way that you react is kind of like one of your love languages. So for example, for me, mine's quality time. But when I'm going through a really fucking rough time, I cut myself off from people. I shut down. I get internal. Yeah. I don't want to talk to anyone, which is the opposite of what I should be doing because my love language is quality time. Like I need to connect with people. Yeah, but I do the opposite. So they were saying that sometimes, it will be the opposite. Yeah. Depending on what you're going through.
But it was interesting to see that it works with any relationship. Sure. Whether it's friends, boyfriend, husband, whatever. That like people have ways that they want to be treated. Absolutely. And ways that people deal with stuff. And if you're just, treating everybody the way you would want to be treated, then it ends up being like selfish. And I'm not being like, well, what would she want? Whatever.
Absolutely.
I didn't really have time to. I was going through stuff too. But the point is like, that's what she wanted. She didn't tell me, but that's what she wanted. And I was just treating her the way I would want to be treated. Sure. And it doesn't always work out.
Sometimes we only know what we know, and then we can be like introspective and look and reflect and go, oh, okay. So now I'm aware. Now I know. Yeah.
So
that was like one of the biggest things, right? Like that's kind of like underlying across the board for everyone is, women want to be loved, men want to be respected. These are the 5 love languages. Learn how to love your partner in the way that they need. And then we get into like, then all of a sudden all these couples come out with like advice. Okay. Right. And so I'll go down some of the advice and we can talk about.
Is it the couples giving them together or just the wife?
It's like one or two. Okay. Right. And depending on how long they've been married. And what has worked for them. And some people have agreed with these and some people have not. So there's this couple who've been married for 60 years. And the wife, I believe, gives the advice here.
Okay.
And she says that your spouse is not your therapist, your maid, or your babysitter. If you have personal issues, go to a therapist. If you can't keep the house clean and it really stresses you out, hire a maid instead of nagging your spouse. If you need to take a break from the kids, get a babysitter, grab your spouse, go on a date night, get drunk, and just have fun. That's the secret to a long marriage.
Huh?
What do you think?
I mean, it makes sense. There's some money issues involved in that.
I was going to say, my biggest thing I was looking at that was like, if you can afford a therapist, if you can afford a maid, and if you can afford a babysitter.
But I think the point of it is that your spouse should not be everything to you. Mm-hmm. They should be your spouse,
well,
right?
Should be partner.
But like they can't be like, I make the mistake sometimes, and it usually backfires of being like, because I don't have many girlfriends out here, of like trying to talk to my husband like about girlfriend stuff, and he's just like, motherfucker, and I'm like, oh, okay. So like that's not, or even just, you know, sometimes even wanting to vent. Like you can't vent in the same way than you can to like your girlfriend or your mom or a therapist, right? Yeah. So that one also makes sense to me a little bit, but the maid thing, it's like, that fucking shit is expensive.
Yeah, that's expensive. The first one, I think it's good to be able to vent and talk to your partner. However, what I will say is I think there's a limit, and I think people need to know too that like when they need to seek out help. And also that your spouse is not a qualified therapist, so there's only so much they can do for you.
Right. And you have to be prepared for them to, just try and fix it, right?
Sure. Well, that's what guys do.
Right. So you have to be prepared for them not to be your girlfriend, not to want to, like, chop it up about whatever. Or
yes,
you have to be prepared for them to just be like, well, sounds like you need to do that, so do that. And you're like, no. So you can do it, but you have to be prepared for them to be your husband and not your fucking girlfriend or whatever.
Well, and that's the thing. Girls like to vent a lot of times, and they just want to get shit off their chest. Guys only really talk about their feelings to get a fucking opinion to fix it, like a solution, right? Traditionally.
Yeah.
So one thing I will say, I just had this happen to me recently, and this was the most attractive thing in my life. Almost. Right. That's a little exaggeration, but this was very attractive. I was talking to a guy, and I had a rough guys. Not one of them. I'm talking to a guy.
Sure.
The only one right now. And I was telling him about my a rough day.
Right.
And he legitimately, after I got done talking, goes, would you like me to just listen to you? And would you like to just vent to me? Or would you like me to give you some, like, my opinion or advice on this? And I was like floored. I was fucking floored. I was like,
what'd you say, by the way?
I
just want you to listen?
I smiled because the way he came across was very like calm and peaceful, and I didn't think that I was going to get like attacked in this opinion or whatever.
Right.
And I smiled and I was like, you know what? I would actually like your advice. And I let him give it to me. And then after, vent it a little bit more, and he let me vent. And then told him how thankful I was for that question. And men, if you're listening out there, I think that's a very good question to ask. And then in turn, I told him, you know what? I should be asking you that too, because there's sometimes that he vents to me that he just wants to vent. He doesn't need my opinion or me to fix it. And so to me, I was like, that's something I could be doing too.
I could take that advice for sure.
To serve you in that way, right? Because while I do know men do like solutions to things, sometimes he just wants to talk to me and get it off his chest. I don't need to be always being like, well, you should do this, and that.
Yeah.
Because, you know, people just don't need that sometimes.
Yeah.
So that's
and also, I would add to that healthy marriage thing is like, have girlfriends that you can talk shit about your husband with, because do you know what I mean? Like, get it out there.
Sometimes
and
it's
then
good.
Don't take it, because if you don't have that, you're gonna take it out on your husband, or you're gonna start. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Getting it out and off your chest and hearing other people be like, me too, girl, or whatever, makes it so that you're not so resentful in stuff that like every fucking husband does, right? But if you don't have other people to talk to, like, have a group of friends that you can talk shit about.
I think it takes a couple good friends though to really be mature enough to understand that though.
True.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So
because there's definitely some people out there that if you were to vent to your spouse about, that they will like constantly tell you to leave them. You know what I mean?
No,
like,
just
treat them differently.
Not like that
the whole
kind
situation.
of stuff.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. For sure.
But there are some people out there like that. You tell them one thing and they will remember it forever and they'll bring it up in every conversation. You're like, listen.
Not that. But like stuff that we would talk about where it's like, they don't fucking sweep. It's like, none of them do or whatever. So we're like,
oh, good. We're not alone.
Super deep, but like, you need to be able to do that or else you're just going to end up looking at your husband like, and it'll build up and you'll maybe kill him. I've been watching a lot of Snapped, so it happens.
You're like...
It does happen.
Well, you know what's funny is the next marriage advice brings up something that you just mentioned.
Okay. I didn't even read these guys.
No, I know. She doesn't even know.
Well, I mean,
which is funny. This is the next one. So this is tips now from a woman who's been married for 7 years.
Okay.
Number 1, you should never talk bad about your spouse to anyone.
You're wrong.
Fuck you.
You're wrong. And not bad. We're not fucking seriously. Come on.
It's a vent.
We're not sitting here and like seriously talking bad.
Yeah.
It's just a vent. It's a wife-husband vent.
Yeah.
But I hear you.
Yeah.
No, if
I think they're talking about like the privacy or the...
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I guess in ways like looking at this, I'm like, I see both sides. But I can see how if you're constantly airing your dirty laundry out there to everyone, the more information you put out there to people, the more opinions you allow in your marriage, the more issues that could cause, depending. That's true. Right?
That makes sense.
It depends what you're talking about.
No, because as you're saying that, I do know that I had a friend in our, bitch circle that was like real bad to the point where you're like, okay, well, do you want to get a divorce? I mean, it went past the like fun, and then they all do da-da-da. It went past that.
The generalization of what guys do.
Yeah, it went to a place of like, oh shit, you hate him.
Yeah.
Like you really hate him. Because the point of the, lady bitch fest or whatever is there's an underlying thing of like, I love them, I'm married to them. Like it's not serious, but we just need to get some stuff off our chest, whatever. But yeah, there was, I think what she's talking about, there was one girl in there that you were like, oh, we don't say it, but you're like, dang, she's like really hates him.
Probably should be talking to
yeah, like there's no love under there. It's mostly just like hate.
Yeah, like we're getting really detailed now. It's not just like he doesn't like cook or clean sometimes.
Sure. Or like he bought a block of Velveeta cheese when I asked him to get like a sharp cheddar or whatever. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's like not a big deal.
I'll say this though, like working with all men, guys do the same thing about women and their spouses. You know what I mean? It's like, and actually the biggest complaint that I always hear from them is just not enough sex sometimes.
Not enough sex.
You know what I mean? Sure. But part of me is always like, well, what are you doing to contribute to that?
Right. Not enough sex and then staying on budget. Other than that.
Oh, I've heard that sometimes.
That's pretty much the two that I hear.
Yeah. So that was number 1 from this woman from 7 years. Number 2, and this is where we go back to it. She said that she believes that each couple should take the 5 love languages test.
Okay.
To know how to love your spouse, which we agree with. And then her last one, which I kind of like, she said, always make sure that the woman climaxes first.
Smart. That is smart. It's a good tip. I mean, you can't always do it, but it's a good tip.
Yeah. And traditionally, men will always get off.
Yeah.
Right?
It's pretty much a given.
It is a given. So if you can get your woman off.
It's weird if it doesn't happen.
First,
it's a conversation
if it
doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's where you need Roman.
Right. Like, then it's a, like, real.
Or it's like, there's this thing going around now, too, where, like, guys are, like, talking about sexual experiences, like, with hot girls that they never thought they'd ever be able to get. And how their penis just was like not working.
Oh, it
shuts down like mentally.
Mental shutdown.
Yeah. So that was her advice from someone from married for 7 years. This is now marriage advice from someone who's married for 10 years. This is interesting. I'm curious to get your take on this. She goes, "Don't marry for love." She goes, "Marry for the life that you want in 10 to 15 to 20 years. Love does not really cut it all the time. When shit gets real and you only got apparently love in your relationship, but you're broke as hell and you're miserable," she's like, "you're going to end up finding she's like, you're going to end up finding a really boring routine in life. And love's not really going to be enough for you." She's like, "You need to marry for the life that you envision for yourself." So basically, everyone has goals in life. And she said that you should find someone who shares those same goals and for you guys both to make those goals a reality.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, shouldn't it be kind of both? It should be like both, right?
It makes sense, but it just sounds very...
The way she makes it sound.
Yeah, it sounds very sterile, very business-like.
It does. Like, so we got a contract. Let's shake on it.
Sure, yeah. Like, don't marry for love. I mean, I get what she's saying.
I think she means primarily, like, you don't just marry because you're like, oh, so let's say you aren't on the same page. Right. One person wants kids, one person doesn't.
Yeah.
One person wants to make their job, like their career, lifestyle, and you're not really for it. She's saying, like, just because you're fully in love with them, this is what I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
Just because you're so head over heels in love with them, you can't live your life without them. Don't just marry just for love.
Yeah, but that's grown-up stuff, right? Like,
sure. Well,
when you get older, you kind of go,
are we on the same page? Do we both want kids? Do we
you
both
end
want
up
the same
like,
life?
I'm sure that's conversations that you're having with people if you're going to get serious.
Sure.
Pretty early on, because we're fucking adults now. But like, I do know what she's saying, and like, if we married like the like love of, it wouldn't have worked out.
The puppy love or the love, whatever.
It wouldn't have worked out.
Now you're having conversations like, hey, do you want to get married? Do you want to have kids? Where do you see yourself in 10 to 15 years? Like, maybe even where do you want to live later on? And are you a city person? Are you a country? Like,
all those
whatever,
things.
All those things.
Yeah.
So
no, I get what she's saying. That makes sense. It just,
I think the
when
way
you
she
hear it,
said about it, because that was like verbatim, and part of me at first initially was like really put off by it. And I was like, ugh.
Yeah.
But then I was like, okay, that does kind of make sense.
It makes sense.
So, now this couple has been married for 8 years. They've been together for 15, and they said the secret to a happy marriage is voicing what you want, like all the time, which falls under the umbrella of communication, and making sure that you actually are making an effort. There's gonna be many times that you don't want to do things that you're gonna need to do because you love the other person.
Right.
So, and that was like their biggest thing there.
Okay.
As they were, and here's one thing that I will say too, they were laughing hysterically, like making this video and everything. I think humor is a huge component of marriage.
For sure.
You have to be able to have someone in your life that is like going to make you smile, that knows how to like, you know, keep you even keel during some of the rough moments. You guys can just laugh about stupid shit. Like, humor is for me, a big component.
Yeah.
If that guy can't make me laugh, you know, I'm probably most likely not getting wet.
That, or if you guys can't, like, I watched this show called Couples Therapy on Showtime. Whatever. It's basically like going to couples therapy, but with other people. So you're kind of like a fly on the wall.
Oh, that's kind of fun.
And so you can find stuff that's like good for you, and whatever stuff that you're like, that doesn't apply to me. But there was this one couple that would like, I mean, they were fighting like fucking crazy, and she was just like, he doesn't do anything, blah, blah, blah. And then he said something, and they both just started cracking up. And it was like, in that moment, the therapist was like, look, you guys have a lot to work on, but like, you have that thing of like, the tension can be like, you know, you can fucking yell at each other and then just be like, fuck, and just be like, this is crazy.
It brings you back to reality a little bit.
Yeah. Just knowing that you can like, look, people are going to fight and yell and all of these things, but if you don't ever come down from that, or if you do the silent treatment after, or if one person is so shut down they won't open back up, but the fact that they could both break it and be like, laugh for even a second and then go back into it, that's it.
Well, that's one thing I like about your and Ross's relationship. Not that in particular, but you guys' humor that you guys have with each other. Because I'll be honest, like, seeing you guys on the podcast sometimes, or even in person, and the way you guys joke and be like goofy with each other, I'm like, I want that.
That's huge. And it's also like, it breaks tension sometimes.
It
like
does.
when we're fucking fighting, like, I'll say something, or he'll just to like calm it down, we'll say something fucking stupid or something fucking whatever, and then we're just like, okay, and it's done, right? But
even I think the goofy component of it, where you guys feel like you guys can make your voices or do the stupid faces or things,
I think it's like
true authenticity, and you can be yourself, and then it grounds you both.
Yeah, because I just don't, as you know, I don't like being serious that much. So, do you know what I mean? Like, even when you're conveying something like to him, I'll do it in like a sarcastic kind of jokey. So that's just how we do it. So it works for me. Like, if I had to be serious all the time, or like, you know, have serious talks, or like fight, like all of that, I couldn't do it.
Yeah. You'd be trained.
Yeah.
It works for you. I love it.
Thanks, girl.
Okay. So here's another marriage tip from a therapist. So, and a couples, at some point, someone in your relationship, whether it's a fight or whatever's going on, someone's going to have to kind of give in / compromise.
Yes.
If not both, at least one.
Yes.
Right. And to me, I feel like there needs to be a balance in a sense with that. It's not always going to be 50-50. Like, you know, you take a turn and then he takes a turn. There might be a month that you are just constantly giving in and compromising. Right. But in return, it shouldn't always be you.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It should be going back and forth a bit.
But if you do marry someone that's a little bit, like, because if you marry opposites or something like that, like, I'm always the one that, just because I want it to end quickly.
Well, some people are.
So I'm always the one that's like, look, I start with an apology, and then we fucking talk it out.
Yes.
And it better end with one from him. But I always start, then we can talk. Then I'm like, then I'm always like, and is there anything you would like to apologize for? Right? And it's like pulling. Finally get it out. I finally get it out. But if I come, which I think we've talked about it, or we've gotten advice from, read something before of like, if you come to people as like, this is my bad. Now let's talk, right?
A lot of times people are also like,
hopefully they'll be like, me too, I'm sorry. Yep. If they don't, fuck them. But if you do come like hat in hand, kind of like, this was my part in it. We obviously both have a part, but I'm apologizing for mine first, whatever. So that's kind of how I handle shit.
And the thing is too, is like, I mean, I'll admit, I mean, I'm still stubborn, but I grew up pretty stubborn, and it was I was definitely not the person who would apologize first initially.
Yeah, but it's hard to, I mean,
do you know what I mean?
It's hard
I'm
to
just
change
calling
that.
myself out and just being honest. Like, it, you know, like in my first marriage, definitely was not. It was always my ex, like, coming up and like resolving things with me. This last one, like, for the first year, I would say it's him, and then he really articulated to me that was something he really wanted me to work on and be better at, and then it became the opposite. Then it was me doing it all the time, than him. But people can change and do the whole reflection thing and go, you know what, you're right. Like, it's all it is my pride and my ego.
Right.
That's really all it is. And I'm wrong. And let's just admit it.
So I know that about my husband too, and he is always wrong. But I also like to be in relationships, just like take people for what they are and meet them where they are. And it does take more work on your part, right? So you feel like the one that's always bending to like see, because you can see where they're at, but not everyone can do that.
But that's the one thing that it works for you guys. So do not go into a relationship thinking you can change someone.
Exactly. And
I think that's what you're trying to say.
That's what I'm saying, is like, I know all the things I knew before I got married, right? So who would I be to like get into it and then be like, I'm going to change this, this, and this.
Correct.
But I don't want you to do that to me either, right?
Yeah.
So like, don't fucking ask me to change, and I won't ask you, right?
The only thing you can change is yourself. The only thing you have control over is yourself.
Right.
The way you react, the way you choose to, move on from the situation, whatever, it's all on you.
Right. And it can't be from someone else like berating you into it.
Yes.
It has to be because like, this is going to work better for us, so I'm going to change this,
Absolutely.
whatever. So yeah.
I get that. And I think, it happened to work out for us, and I think I changed more so on my own because it was something I need to do.
Yeah, because you were like, he's telling me that this is what he wants, and I want this to work, so I'm going to do it, as opposed to
also a little self-reflection. Like, you're right. I don't need to be so stubborn and be like, no, I'm always right, because I'm definitely not.
Yeah, but then you found that it was always the other way, because it feels good to have somebody always coming to you.
Sure.
And apologizing. So there's a little bit of that too.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about this one. I don't know.
Okay.
Because there's caveats to it.
Got it.
You always hear the phrase like, never go to bed angry.
Yeah.
What do you?
No, I say yeah.
You say yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Never go to bed angry. So you think you should work out no matter what, even if you're like
no,
up to
go
2,
to bed.
3 a.m.
No, go to bed. Get some sleep.
Okay.
Talk about it in the morning.
That's my biggest thing. That's where the issue arises for me, right? Because like, I think there's a caveat to it. I understand the purpose of never go to bed angry. I get that. However, there has been times in my past relationships where like somehow a fight has broken out super late at night.
A lot of times they do.
And they do. And I end up reading this and hearing it from a therapist that depending on the person and if they have a certain personality, they do this on purpose because they know that you're tired and you're weakened at the end of the day and you're just exhausted. So they'll bring up something just to get you to compromise, just to get you to shut up, just to get you to be like, you know what, you're right. Sure, I'll do it. It's fine, whatever. Because they know that you'll agree to it. So just so you can go to sleep.
Yeah. And
I found that happening a lot towards the end. And it was exhausting. And so to me, it just became easier to ignore him and go to bed angry. And actually, I wasn't even angry. I think I was just more so like kind of annoyed. He was angry.
Right.
But it just was like 2, 3 a.m. in the morning. It was getting progressively worse and worse. And it was like, this is not happening.
I think that phrase, never go to bed angry, which has been around forever, has really fucked people up.
I think so too.
I don't know why. Like, what is the purpose of it? Because someone could die in the night. Like, what is it? Why?
I don't know. Maybe.
So I would always try and resolve right there.
Sure.
And just like you're saying, and then it would just like be the worst, and it would be even. You're tired then in the morning, so you want to be able to like everything. I did learn after that was like everything looks better in the morning after a good night's sleep. Sun's up, coffee.
You had some time to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Calm down. That's my biggest.
No matter what it is.
Well, that's my biggest thing too. Is like everyone's different when it comes to being like. Everyone reacts differently when it comes to arguments and everything. Some people want to talk it out and get it resolved right away. Other people
used to be like that.
Yeah. Other people need to calm the fuck down. They need some space. They need to chill out. They know that they're really angry, and if they respond to it now, they're going to say something they don't want to say. So they're being mature and saying, "Listen, I can't talk about this now. So let's talk about this a little bit after I calm down and the emotions subside." Right. That's the type of person I am.
Right.
I used to need a long time. Like, give me a week. No. Give me a week to calm down.
Right.
Just leave me the fuck alone for a month. No.
Yeah.
But I used to need a little bit longer. I've gotten to where it's shorter. Like, give me some time. To me, when those boundaries are pushed, I react, I explode. And then, of course, when it's at night and I'm tired as fuck,
even worse.
It's even worse. Nothing's getting resolved.
And
it's
then
a
like,
hamster wheel of just horse shit.
Yep.
All and on
and like
on.
At night, a lot of times it's like you've either drinking a little bit or you went out or whatever. So like it's never.
Oh yeah,
it's just
drunk too.
Never a good idea. So. Is she saying to never go to bed angry?
You know that phrase. We've heard it a million times. So to me, I think
we really need to update that.
That's what I'm saying. To me, if it makes sense, if it's like a 7 o'clock after dinner argument and you can get it resolved in a good period of time and actually works good. But if not, part of me is like, don't stress it and make it worse because you have to follow this phrase of never go to bed angry.
I think this phrase is for like boring fighters. Do you know what I'm saying? Like people are like, well, honey, I really didn't like that.
Yeah, you know, you put a little too much salt on the fish tonight.
And then they go, honey, okay, no, I hear you. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, so this isn't for like people like us, like the volatile fucking passion, like the fucking
I'm gonna
fighters.
Uh-huh.
So I think that phrase is for, I think it probably originated with like the old school traditional marriages where it was just like boring and whatever. So we can definitely update it. Go to bed angry. Wake up in a better mood and deal with it then.
Yeah.
Go to bed.
Deal with it on
go to bed.
But deal with it on your own terms too. Every relationship is different. There is no time limit that says within 2 hours you have to have this resolved. What works for you works for you. Once you guys both are on the same page, and it needs to be both on the same page. It's not like one being like, we need to talk now. It's like, I'm not ready to. That's never going to work out either.
Oh, God.
You know what I mean? Because I've had that before. Like, we're going to talk right now. Like, no, motherfucker, we're not. Because I'm not okay right now.
Right.
And we don't want this. And that is a respect. That is showing your spouse respect. And that's laying down a boundary. And you need to, people need to respect that.
Right.
Then you can get it fully resolved. And then once it's resolved, boom, it's done.
Yeah.
But to me, if you keep arguing about it and never gets resolved, guess what? That now becomes an underlying issue, creates resentment,
and
creates
then you
more
bring
problems,
up more fights,
stonewalling, and all the other shit.
Because right, once you start fighting about other stuff, then you like say something from a previous thing. You start a whole new fight, and then it's just like, what did I do? I just fucking exploded something that could have been dealt with in the morning.
And it was
go to bed.
Fucking tiny.
Just go to bed.
The snowball effect just keeps rolling downhill. Yeah. To a motherfucking avalanche. So that's why I was curious on that one.
Yeah.
This guy gives advice on how to affair-proof your marriage.
Oh, to affair-proof. Okay.
Affair-proof it. He says, don't have close friends of the opposite sex.
Yeah.
You can have acquaintances and coworkers and whatever, but you should not be getting your needs met with people from the opposite sex other than your spouse.
Yeah. Is there a gay loophole though? Pride Month.
I mean, I'm sure. But that's different, right? It's not, to me, I feel like that's a little bit different. Like
that makes sense.
Like if I was with someone and he had a lesbian, girl friend who,
nope, wouldn't be cool with that. I'm saying guy. I'm saying gay guy.
You're like, I'm talking about me.
The girl lesbian? No, you're not being friends with her. But
depends on how hot.
Okay. Yeah. But the gay guy friend, that kind of, I do hear about that as the loophole for that, because it's like, no, you shouldn't.
But I will say
it is nice to have like men energy sometimes.
But what he's saying though is he's talking about, you can have a friend. You're not getting your needs met from a friend though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, to me, I feel like with any friend, guy or girl, but traditionally opposite sex, if you need emotional support from your spouse and you're not getting it, you communicate with your spouse that you need it. You don't just go to someone else and try to get it. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Whether it's friend, whatever.
Yeah.
Of that of the aspect. So I know that people have done this before. You know, you have a guy friend, whatever, it's not working out with you and your husband. It's really easy sometimes to talk to them, whether you mean to or not, and you don't even realize that you're getting like your emotional needs kind of met, because he's like encouraging you and like telling you everything's gonna be okay, and that's what you need from your husband, but you're not getting it from him, so you get it from a guy friend. Whether you do it purposely or unknowingly, it happens sometimes. That's a dangerous,
right.
slippery slope.
No, that's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's why traditionally I always would be very careful. Like, I wouldn't, like, if I had guy friends, which I guess it's kind of hard to say, like, guy friends, I would not talk to them about relationships.
Right.
There was only, I think, one that I did one time. And I was like, it was after, like, my miscarriage. And then my husband, like, you know, saw the text messages or whatever. And he was like, hey, I understand why you were doing this, because I, like, neglected you during this time, but please don't do that. And I was
I want you to do that. Talk to me about it.
And I was like, okay, I understand. But he was also like, I understand I shut you out. He's like, but also please don't talk about our relationship to him.
Makes sense.
And I was like, I understand that, because I wouldn't like that with him and a girl. Right? Because I'm now looking for someone else to get my needs met. So is it a red flag if a guy has a ton of girlfriends that he's talking to every day?
Yeah. Yeah. We're done with that. So look, are we talking about marriage? If we're talking about dating, no.
Marriage.
If we're talking about dating, do whatever the fuck you want, right?
Yeah,
and you can decide whether that's cool with you or not. But marriage, no.
You know, there's individuals that like married people out there. They're like, no, I have this guy friend and he's so awesome, or I have this girl who's a friend who's super awesome.
I do.
It can turn into a slippery slope.
Oh yeah, it's not sustainable, but good for you.
Well, we've also had this conversation in the past on an episode. I think the last time I was even here in studio, about how guys and girls really truly can't be friends.
Yeah.
Because there's always gonna be one or the other who wants something more. And traditionally, the reason why they're friends is because they tried romantically to work it out and it didn't. And so there is that, like, it happened. So could it happen again? I don't know, but
yeah,
you know.
No, but I think we determined quite scientifically that it is impossible, and anyone that tells you,
I know, I was so bummed because I was like, I have so many guy friends, and then I was like, and always at the end of the day, it was like, I love you, Tiffany, or like, I'm gonna try to fuck you, and it was like, oh, you're really not my guy friend. You're just waiting around
because it's just not
for the fallout.
Humans just can't.
You know.
Again, you can if you're not in a relationship. I think
there's gonna be people trying to debunk this and be like, no, I've been friends with, Scott for 15 years and he's never tried to fuck me. But would he?
And that, I think we did that test too. We're like, cool. So why don't you go up to your guy friend right now and say, hey, I know we're friends. We're just friends. Do you want to have sex right now?
Yeah.
And I guarantee it'd be over then.
So that was a test on the internet actually for a while, right? Like a guy and a girl would be dating together and the guy would be like, okay, text your guy friends right now that we broke up and see what they all say. And they would get all their reactions and all of them were like, yo, what's up? You want to come over? Like all of them were waiting. They were all waiting in line.
Yeah. So again, we've scientifically proved this over and over again. It's just not possible. But again, I'm sure there's people that are going to write in and be like, I've been friends, blah, blah, blah. And I'll be like, are you married? Are you single? Whatever. Like that's when it works. Like I do think that like when you're single or when you're dating, like you can have like, and I think you have like a close friend that you kind of like bounce stuff off of. And like, I think it works then. But I think you both kind of know if either one of you gets into a serious relationship, you're not going to be talking about that kind of stuff anymore. So they are these friendships that sort of last in this singlehood and maybe you guys don't ever hook up, but like it's the only way that it can work without drama until one of you guys get into a relationship. Yeah. But so it is possible.
It is possible.
But not in the long term and not if one of you want to be in a serious relationship.
And
that's
being
all.
open and honest too about it and everything, but that's a different story. Yeah. This guy continues to go on and said also you should have full access to your spouse. This is how you this is how you make your marriage affair proof. Full access to your spouse. And, there was a joke that was like, we literally see each other's private parts. We literally lick each other's private parts.
Mm-hmm.
But yet we are so private with our phones.
Right.
Right. So this guy's like full access to your spouse, meaning that they should be able to see your phone. They should be able to see your messages. They should know where you are and what you're doing and who you're with. I
think that's fair in marriage.
So
you should be doing it all the time.
Yeah, but let's play devil's advocate for a second. There's gonna be people there that's like, that's control. I should have my own privacy. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah, but I will say that like if you do have access and full access, that kind of fades away. So you'll find that like if your partner is fully like, no, whatever, go through it all the time, you'll end up being like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just the idea that like I'm not keeping it from you that makes you go like, that's good enough for me.
I'll
right?
tell you this,
like
I very rarely ever looked through my ex-husband's phone because I had access to it. I will say this, the times I did, I always found something though.
Was that later though?
Well, it was throughout the marriage.
Okay.
I mean, there was red flags. I shouldn't have said.
Okay.
However, I will say that the minute that he did not grant me access to anything anymore, the biggest fucking red flag. And believe me, there was a lot that I found.
Yeah.
So
I think
I get that.
Yeah. So like I have full access. I check all the time. I don't find anything.
Sure.
So
I mean, I
now,
found little tidbits, some of the tidbits.
Right.
Of like, was this? And I'm sure if I looked into it a little bit more, I would have found stuff.
But like, if you're finding that, it's kind of like, meh. You know what I mean? So I haven't found anything. So after a while, you're just like, meh.
Yeah.
I just don't. Until you have that feeling. And if you have that feeling, then do. But
correct.
For the most part, people that have full access end up just...
And don't become obsessed with it is the biggest thing, though, too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like...
Only do it the week before your period like everyone else. And then let it go.
Divorce him for a second. For the day. And we're done. And then just have it be all fun. Yeah.
And then just like...
I mean, don't drive yourself nuts with it. And I know there's going to be some people out there, too, that are like, hey, you should let your spouse know beforehand that you're going to look through it or that you want to. I mean, believe me.
Give them time to what?
Yeah,
to delete and hide it. No, thank you.
I will say that towards the end, I did ask him, right? I remember asking him, like,
and
hey,
it takes him a long
could I see
time
your phone?
to like
and then he went to the bathroom to take a shit. And then all of a sudden it was like everything was deleted. And I was like, this is convenient.
I will
That was a really long 55-minute poop you just took there, sir.
I will say, I don't want to talk too badly, but that guy was just so transparent.
So
like,
fucking transparent.
He did all the things that you're
everything you could possibly do wrong.
You're like, is this a movie about this or is this life? Like,
and then like left all the evidence for me to find.
Are you really? When I asked to see your phone,
why is there so many charges for Marriott's and Airbnbs on here? Why all of a sudden? Yeah.
So anyway, that's all I'll say about that, except for like that. You guys
are getting like breadcrumbs of my past.
Yeah, exactly. That's how we're doing it. That's all you guys will get.
It's okay.
We'll sprinkle him throughout the whole thing. Yeah.
In case the motherfucker listens, because he probably is obsessed.
Go ahead. No,
keep listening.
Keep listening, motherfucker.
But yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. So
there you go. Have full access to your spouse, and that,
I like that, but I think that
I think that's the relationship dependent. If it works for you, it works for you.
Right. And I think that's like we said, it ends up being something else than that.
Sure.
It ends up being we just trust each other fully instead of constantly trying to check on.
And if that's the way that you guys want to, if that's one of the many ways you want to establish trust, and do it. Right. Especially if someone has trust issues. And then he's also saying too, hey, grow your marriage deeper, continue to keep learning and grow on it, go through therapy and everything, so that you don't feel the need to get your needs met outside of your marriage. Because it's the whole the grass is never greener, right? The grass is definitely not green on the other side. It's only greener where you water it. So either way, you're going to put effort into something. So you're either going to put effort into starting something new with another person all over again, which might feel really good and warm and cozy at first. And then it's going to turn into, a shit show, just like your marriage probably is right now, because you're not putting effort into it. Right. Or you can take all that time and effort and put it into your marriage to make it grow. Right. It's like, what was it? I had it here. There was a marriage tip from a divorce attorney that said that marriage is like plants. You got to water it every day. Yeah. You got to give a little bit every day. Don't let it die out, ever.
Dude, yeah.
You know what I mean?
And it's going to change and evolve pretty much every year. Like, the first year, traditionally, pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean,
From what do you say?
Yeah, from what I've experienced.
Yeah, and I mean, from anyone that I've talked to, where they're just like, oh, we're just having, and I'm like,
it's a lot of learning curves.
I think I talked to one person in that first year and was like, look, the first year is hard because you're like, this is it. And there's like a human kind of reaction or just an instinct to be like, test it and be like, is this real, or is this, what did I get into, and questioning it, whatever. Whether you love them totally or not, you're kind of like, oh shit. It kind of sinks in. I'm spending
the rest of my life with this person.
Yes, and you have your hardest fights, you have your biggest things, because you're just trying to like, is this how it's gonna be, or are you gonna do this or whatever? And that's really the worst year. And if you can get past that, and then I guess 7.
Yeah, people say they have the 7-year itch.
And so if you can get past these little things and grow, I guess. Who knows? But what do I know?
That's why I think every relationship is different. I know some people who've had like an amazing first year and they said that their second or third year sucked, or, you know, some people just the whole 6 years sucked.
I was gonna say one of the years is really gonna suck. We're not sure which one it is. Could be a couple.
Could be all of it.
I don't know if it's gonna be in the beginning or the middle or the end, but it's one of those years is really gonna suck.
Yeah. So if you had to give your best relationship advice, marriage advice, what would it be for you? Or like if you had to be like, this is key in a marriage or whatever.
So for us, it has worked to, now keep in mind, I have only been married with kids.
Sure.
So I've never had the like just marriage where it's just the two of you doing whatever. So I've had to learn all of these things or have rules for all of these things at one time.
Yeah.
Just starting from the very beginning. But I would say for us, sex is important.
Yeah.
It's important to do, like you were hearing from, you know, when you hear guys in the military talk, a lot of it is not enough sex. Girls aren't getting enough sex for one reason. You know, girls aren't giving it for one reason or another, whether it's they're not being taken care of or they're not respected. But that on a base level, again, keeping it simple, right? Sex.
Yep.
Date nights. At least once every 2 weeks.
Yep. Never stop dating.
A vacation. There was like I saw some rule one time where it was like a date every 2 weeks, a weekend away every 2 months.
Smart.
If you can.
Sure.
Again, this is all money related and we don't all have that, but you can kind of do things like I said before, where it's like have a picnic, whether just as long as it's you two together, no kids, no work talk, no whatever it is, distractions. So date nights, vacation sex, things like that, and keeping it, just for us, trying to keep it a dating situation.
Yes.
And I think I've heard that a lot too, where it's like if you
dating.
If you get comfortable or you get into a routine or you get into I'm going to bed, you stay out here, we sleep in different rooms or whatever, that's where it goes, right? So you constantly have to be, I'm usually the one to do it, but constantly being like, hey, what's going on this week? What are you upset about? This is what I'm upset about, whatever. Date nights, and then sex and blowjobs.
There you go.
So blowjobs should not feeling like sex. Blowjobs, I'm sorry to say, and people are going to be up in arms, but quite simple when it comes to dudes. Make sure they get off. Then you can have the conversation about whatever you want to have or whatever it may be.
I mean, if I will say this, though, if you're giving oral, you should be getting oral in return, though. Absolutely. It should be a two-way street.
Absolutely. Yeah. But at that time, you don't really want it.
I'm not saying right there. I'm just saying
what I mean.
Period in the whole marriage. But
so the times that we want to are different, right?
Sure.
And you just
blowjob
being
can fix
okay with that. Being okay with the fact that like this isn't my time, but I'm gonna do it.
Well, that's right.
And then my time's later, whatever.
Yeah, you know what I mean by that.
So
I'm just saying if you're in the marriage, if you are constantly giving your husband head,
for sure,
he should be going down on you.
Absolutely.
That's all I mean. But you're saying use the blowjobs in your favor. Yes.
It's one of the best pieces of marriage advice I've gotten, to be honest with you girls.
And if I have a blowjob, want a purse, give a blowjob.
Blowjob or feeling tension.
Being a pain in your ass?
Feeling tension.
Blowjob.
Want him to do something.
BJ.
Want to go out with your girls.
BJ.
Know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. I like it. I can totally get behind that.
And
I don't think any guy will ever fucking complain about that. Whether you're really good at it or just average. And actually, that's one thing. I think that depends on the guy, but I've had a lot of guys be like, "There's no such thing as a bad blowjob."
Right.
Because you're trying. You're doing it. You're
it's
trying.
like pizza, right?
Sure.
Even if it's bad,
it's still good.
It's kind of good.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more that goes along with that. But I think for me, it's more of a thing of I do have married guy friends, and I hang out with married couples, whatever, and that tends to be the issue, where it's look, their issue is this, your issue is that. Maybe if you're fixing that part, they'll start to fix this, and it all kind of.
Yes.
And again, it's all different. I'm just talking about for me. Blowjob.
BJ.
Write it down, girls.
Get it in your head.
Blowjob.
Give head.
In the morning. The night. Lunchtime.
Lunch, yeah. A little break.
If you
afternoon snack.
If you want to, buy that jacket or whatever.
There you go. BJ.
Quick little blowjob, and then
hey,
he'll even offer it to you.
Would you
I saw you looking at that
5
jacket.
jackets? Mm-hmm. Why, yes, sir, I will. We always talk about communication in marriages.
Yeah.
But the big thing that people don't talk about along with communication, you can communicate all fucking day long. But if you're not comprehending what the person is saying, communication just jack shit.
Then it's nagging, right?
Sure.
So if it's not a back and forth, then it's just one person nagging the other person, right? But communication, then finding times for communication, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the times, women or men both will try and bring something up at the wrong time, right? There is a time, and I've heard this.
And there's a way to do it too.
There's a way to do it. They talk about this with money conversations, because people in marriage should kind of check in about money every once in a while.
Well, money is a big proponent of divorce.
Right. So if you have a monthly kind of check-in or whatever it is, but they were do it at this time of day, do it after this person is eaten. You know what I mean? There are times and places to talk about hard things. And if you bring it up at the wrong time, what could have been a good conversation.
Correct. In our military training, we teach our guys when to approach people. Right? If you are looking for help, especially in a foreign country, maybe in the enemy territory, and you're trying to reach out to a civilian, and we give them circumstances, and we say, at night, after dinner, when they're calmed down, they're no longer working, right? Yes. They have already had time with their family. They're now in relaxation mode. Make sure that they're alone, away from distractions, right? Those are some of the things that we talk about. And it's the same thing with these, hard conversations. Make sure they're fed. Make sure they have no distractions of home, work, life, whatever.
Or there's not a residual fight that's going on too.
And all stuff. Yeah.
So look,
it
is a lot of work. You can't just, I think that's what I've found, which I always thought it was going to be. Just I say what I want when I say it. They better fucking listen to me. I better fucking do whatever.
I'm communicating, but how and when?
But then you learn that you're dealing with a whole ass other person with a whole ass other life that they were lived for this long with this much baggage, and a mom and a dad and brothers, whatever it is, where you're you have to approach things in a different way, and it takes a lot more work. Would it be a lot easier to just say what you want to say and have them fucking do it? Sure.
But it doesn't work that way. And that's the thing too, is sometimes I do understand that sometimes guys are women are being I'm communicating with him. I'm telling him what I need. But how are you communicating it, right? So sometimes it does come across as nagging in ways as hey, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. When it's always you're not doing and you're not doing or I need you to do. Where instead if you're hey, I understand that you're really busy. I would really appreciate if you could, or I could really use your help, or, I need you type of things. Guys love being needed and wanted. Right. And so when it feels in the way you communicate it. That's the one thing I had to learn too, is I was sitting there and be I was telling you what I need. No, I was telling him what he wasn't doing.
Yes.
Right. And I had to sit there and go, instead of bitching about him not doing the dishes, whether it was hey, you want a blowjob for the dishes? Right. That does definitely happen a few times. Or if it was hey, I understand you had a really long day. And if you have time, I could really use your help with the dishes later on. And then it would free up some of my time so we can hang out later. And he'd be oh my God, yeah, of course.
Right.
Well, not always, but.
And I do need to clarify with the blowjob thing. You're never going to tell them that's why you're doing it. So,
I've definitely used sex as a marketing chip before. Sometimes, like, hey,
for sure.
Well, we did it as a joke sometimes. If he was like, hey, if I do this, I'm like, you'll get head, and he was like, sweet. And
right.
It's like kind of a joke, but he really did get it.
If you're using it for a tool to, like, have a conversation after, you just do it, and then right after be like, hey. So I was just wondering.
As you lean on his chest.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, so there's this Prada bag.
Could you? Yeah. For me, it's more like, so could you maybe, you know what I mean?
It's like sweep the floor once in your fucking life. Thank you.
Can you just like take out the trash and have that just be your thing, just like your one thing
forever?
Mm-hmm. I'll do everything else. I just need that.
Yeah,
that one thing.
I like it.
So yeah. Anyway,
it's good.
So we will now get to some. Or wait.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I got.
We will now get to some advice.
Yes.
What do we have? Is it in the marriage realm?
Kind of, I think.
Okay.
In the relationship.
Relationship.
Yeah, we're in the relationship
Perfect.
realm. Okay, so let me go back to 126. So 126, we have bad boys, right? We were talking about that one.
That guy that had. Was that the officer that had like 8 girlfriends?
No.
Oh,
126 was the one we just did. It was like toxic relationship
yeah.
behavior, like making the guy say your name, having sex while you're on your period.
Say my name.
Stuff like that. We had the update of the chick who, is separate from her husband now.
Got it. Yeah.
Right? Who like was looking through his phone.
Got it.
So we had a Broette write in and said, "Hey girls, so I was just listening to episode 126. Oh, sorry. Take that back. Say my name."
Yes.
So, say my name. I was listening to you guys talk about being love bombed. So we were talking about this at the beginning, right? You guys were talking about being love bombed and how when a normal guy shows love, you think that there's something wrong, right? Because like, we're so used to guys being obsessed with us right away and the whole love bombing thing and love at first sight.
Mm-hmm.
She goes, I never thought about it like this, but it's so true. She's like, I had 2 terrible relationships. One specifically was with a huge narcissist who did the whole love bombing thing and then the gaslighting thing, the whole relationship.
And withdrawing from that and taking that away from you.
Yep. I thankfully called off our engagement before the wedding. Woo! Good girl. Fast forward to now, I'm currently engaged again, 1 month away from my wedding, and just found out we're pregnant. But my current fiance, I just realized is the right kind of guy. Okay, so she just realized this. He never love bombed.
Okay.
He's always level. He's very quiet. He's not always very outwardly affectionate. I've always felt like you guys said that he didn't, maybe love me as much because of this, but I knew he was actually a good guy. But after listening to this podcast, I realized I just don't really understand how it's supposed to be.
Yep.
When there isn't like that crazy roller coaster of emotions and like the toxic sex that goes with it. I just thought that there was like something wrong, when in reality I'm realizing there's actually nothing wrong with this. I'm just so used to a really unhealthy relationship.
Yeah.
So
girl.
Anyways, I just want to like kind of point that out to you guys and talk about it a little bit further. Thank you guys so much for the podcast. I really look forward to them every week. You two are amazing. So we can talk about this a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like, I think it depends on the stage you're like where you're at in life. I was not probably at a place where I loved myself fully.
Yeah.
I definitely wasn't. Okay, let's just be real. I wasn't at a place where I loved myself fully. To where when I was shown extreme love, like I'm telling you, extreme, guys.
Oh, it shouldn't be like
a flip a fucking switch. Like,
yeah.
The minute you met me, love at first sight. I knew I wanted to marry you. I want you to meet all my family, all my friends. Like scary red flag shit that you would tell anyone else. But you start sitting there going like, wow, like you feel good. It's making you feel really good about yourself. That's not fucking normal.
Yeah.
Like,
and it's
just
not
like we talked about before, and in the last episodes, that when a guy feels like you are rushing into a relationship super quickly, he feels like you're just falling in love with a fantasy of him or idea of him. That's what's happening with you, in one way, but also another way is I feel like they're really trying to trap you, right?
Yeah.
Like they need somebody so bad that they're literally like giving you everything they got to get you.
Yeah.
Hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah.
And I fell for it twice, both marriages.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's why I was talking to you about it, is because that's what I dealt with. So when something was like normal, even keel, they were just there, like physically just there for you, not leaving. I'm like, wait,
What's going on?
What's going on?
Why are you obsessed with me?
Yeah,
why aren't you all over me 24/7?
Like,
why aren't you texting me all the time?
Yeah, I feel like you're distant, and they're like, I'm sitting right next
here.
to you. What do you mean?
Yes.
Things have changed. Well, we're together for like a while now. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not going to be fucking crazy. And you're just like, so recognizing that, and I love that she did.
Yeah.
Because it took me a while, and it took me like going through that exact thing and realizing that I do actually like that. I love that love bomb shit.
Sure.
Like,
it makes you feel really fucking good.
It makes you feel really good. It's so spontaneous. It's very, you know what I mean?
It's a whirlwind.
Chaotic, which I kind of like too.
Sure.
And it's not boring, and it's fucking great. But what comes after that is they use that moment to control you, because you're always trying to get back to this like amazing love bombing thing. So when it's even keel, like, it may start not too hot and heavy, right?
Yes.
But if it's there, if they're always there for you, if they always show up,
yes,
that's a different type of like true love, right? And it's just reprogramming. And I love that she's actually seeing that it's unhealthy. And a big red flag, I know now, every time you hear a friend that's like, I know, we're just like engaged, and you're like, oh, how long have you? 2 weeks. Okay.
Wow.
Oh, well, it happens.
Yeah.
And like, in my mind, I'm always like, this is gonna fucking crash and burn. Usually it does, but we don't see those red flags. But anytime I hear people like that fucking in love like that, I'm like,
I know.
I don't know.
Let me go ahead and bring this up. So there's 7 stages of trauma bonding from a narcissist.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 1, love bombing. We talked about this before.
Yes.
Many times. The love bombing stage.
Yes.
Then we go into the next stage. They love the shit out of you. And all of a sudden, the stage number 2, which is the trust and dependency stage. And this is traditionally where you fall in love. And no joke, as I sit here, like, I'm like referring back
reliving
to my
all of it.
Marriage.
Yeah.
The trust and dependency stage is where they're there for you in the hardest of times. If that happens to be, they start exposing themselves and their weaknesses only enough to like build that trust and dependency. They share stories, you share stories. You feel this like so strong connection. You're like, there's no fucking way. It's like the movies, right? This is where you think that you're falling in love. I don't really know if I ever fully did. You know what I mean? Then they start getting into... slowly start building into the devaluing stage. It starts off small and it gets bigger with criticism over time, right? And then comes the gaslighting and being like, no, that's wrong. No, that's not it. And then they kind of, the resignation stage where it kind of feels like, you know, like you're giving up, they gave up type of thing, but you keep working towards it. Like that's where the breadcrumbing comes into. You feel like they resign from the relationship and then they give you enough to stay in.
Give you a little call, give you a little text. Yeah.
The next stage is you feel like a loss of self in this because you don't feel like yourself anymore. They're only giving you enough to keep you around. You don't even know who you are because you're like walking on eggshells and you're doing everything you can for this. And you feel like you almost lost them in a way. Like nothing is how it was at the beginning. And then the last stage is addiction. You get addicted to this whole fucking cycle. Like literally it keeps you in it. Right? Like you, like they breadcrumb you and love bomb you maybe for a second, and then they gaslight you, make you feel like shit, and you apologize, and then you go into, you feel lost again, but then you go back. And it becomes this never-ending cycle.
Yes.
Okay? So they call that trauma bonding. And I'm sure some of you guys who've talked about being in a narcissistic relationship or an abusive narcissistic marriage can understand that's how it goes. And or maybe like now you're seeing that's how it goes, because I didn't know this until like talking to therapists and reading books on it. And I was like, holy fucking shit, you have described my relationship. And it was scary to see it. And I don't think I almost wonder sometimes too if narcissists realize that they're doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I just don't know.
That is the question that most people have. Is like, is it conscious or is it unconscious?
Yeah.
Right? Is it just ingrained? Is it or is it something they really fucking learn?
Yeah.
And they do. I don't
They're
see
like
someone
consciously doing it.
I don't see someone going like,
I don't
and
either.
now I'm going into the
Same.
devaluing stage. I think it's just.
So is it something that they learn as a kid and they, you know what I mean? Or from their parents and then they grew up, or throughout experiences in life where they've, I don't know. Like,
yeah. I'm looking for this book that I heard about. I think it's called Between the Stitching by Taylor Higgins. And she goes through she's a TikTok girl, and I think she's like really big on the narcissist whatever.
Yeah,
but she
there's a
had
lot
this
on TikTok.
full on like relationship with this guy.
Yeah.
And she wrote a book and went through everything. And so, and she's even saying in it like, I know this sounds crazy that I did this, but I did. Like, and I don't know why. I was just so lost. I was so. And she's not an idiot. She's beautiful, smart, and like not an idiot. And she was like, I think about it now, and was just like, but those stages take you to that place.
They do.
And she even talked about that too. It's like all the things that he did to take you to that place, and then from then on, you can kind of do whatever you want until someone wakes up and goes, holy shit.
What the fuck? Yeah.
Yeah.
Until it's pointed out to you, I think, even by that, I didn't know it until it's pointed out to me by a fucking professional.
Yeah. And this girl, her family had to interview.
Oh,
Because
really?
they were just like, dude.
See, my family was kind of like in the whirlwind, like they kind of in the hype of it a little bit, but realized there was issues. You know what I mean? Like when they're starting to notice signs.
Right, but I think if they had lived closer,
sure,
or
I'm sure
something,
too,
they would have been able to see stuff and be like, no.
But I will say, once I started going through therapy and talking to my therapist, and like I went to therapy thinking that I was a narcissist because I was convinced that I was a narcissist, and I was like, I'm so fucked up, I need to fix myself.
That's perfect. That's
and then she was like,
exactly
if you are truly a narcissist, you would never be seeking out therapy, and you know what I mean? And so then I went to start finding out things. I started talking to my mom about it. And my mom was like my parents were like clear as day, right? Here's one example of this that I hear. When you throw a frog into boiling water, it's just gonna jump the fuck out because it knows it's hot, right? Yeah. But the way that it explains a narcissistic relationship is that you put a frog in just regular water and you slowly turn on the heat, and it slowly starts to get hot, and it gets used to it, that literally it dies because it's so used to the environment that it's in. And this is the same thing. So people, when they describe a narcissistic relationship, right, they say it starts off at the top, the peak of it, right, with the love bombing, the trust and dependency stage, and it continues to go down, right? And then it does a little boop over time, like a little couple little bumps. It keeps going through bumps. And what you're trying to do in that relationship, you're trying to get back up to that peak, which is why a lot of times you stay. You saw the potential of them. You know that's how they could be, and you keep trying to get to that because you saw that, right? That's why we always talk about not staying for the potential, but stay for the reality. What they say is normal relationships start off here, they might go down a little bit, but then they should continually keep gradually going up, right? Like, and it's a gradual
plateauing into
and they
a
plateau,
good place.
and then there might be a few bumps along the way, but right.
Let me ask you this though, because you do watch TikTok, and there's this really big trend, and the word narcissist and
it's
love
thrown
bombing,
around a lot.
gaslighting, I think is thrown around a lot.
It is.
And it should, in the same way that mental health is thrown around.
Yes.
And I think that should piss off people with real fucking mental problems. I think in the same way, people that are actually in like hardcore emotionally abusive narcissistic relationships should be a little bit mad that it's so thrown around, and it ends up being like,
This thing.
oh, it's a narcissist. A narcissist could be like, oh, he just wasn't, I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, their examples sometimes are very small, and you just kind of go like, I mean,
Sure.
I do think there's a difference, and I do think there are actual narcissists, and I do think there is
Narcissistic behavior.
I think there is
So
different kinds of
difference.
emotional abuse. I think there's accountability on a couple people's sides, and it's not just like, do you know what I mean?
Well, the thing is like, in order to be considered a narcissist 100%, like, it's diagnosable.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
It's
So you have to be a
disorder,
diagnosed
yeah.
narcissist.
Yeah.
Can people do people have narcissistic traits and tendencies? Yeah, I think everyone does, right?
Sure.
Can someone be more so of a narcissist, like have like narcissistic behavior? Absolutely. I don't think like my past spouses would have to go through an expert to be like, you are a diagnosed narcissist. However, were they saying that they have a lot of narcissistic behaviors, and this is what the trends, and this is what it seems like? Sure. Do we all kind of have it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And we all have some little tidbit of it. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
I think
because
like on TikTok, when
I
I
hear so much,
when I hear people that are in like either bad relationships, or somebody cheated, or they lied or something, the word narcissist is kind of being thrown around to sort of heighten that or describe it, where it is just like, there are bad people, there is emotional abuse that is different than that, there is toxic relationships where you both are fucked up. So I think that when I do see someone that was in an actual, do you know what I mean, where you can see it clear as day, and I know them and whatever, it makes me be like, bitch.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
So we do need to preface that is that like we do think I do personally think it's thrown around a lot, and I think it's losing meaning where it could have been something that people really talked about and saw the signs, and now it's kind of just like used.
I get it, because I've read, like, I think I had a friend who made a post on Instagram and said she talked about this exact thing, that like the word narcissist is being thrown around so much that now everyone's a fucking narcissist, diagnosed, right? Narcissist. Sure. They have characteristics. The love bombing and all that with the trauma bonding is signs of narcissistic abuse or behavior. Doesn't mean that they're 100% like diagnosed. Like, yes,
exactly.
So I guess I could be a little bit more careful with that. I guess I didn't realize if I am trying to label.
No, I will say that's what I was saying is that your situation, from everything I heard and everything I know and all of that, was pretty, pretty narcissistic behavior, love bombing, all of this, like but then again, emotionally abusive.
It's behavior. I can't say for a fact because I'm not an expert and whatever else.
But I will say with this person, he has a pattern of doing the exact same thing to many people. So I think that ends up being right.
I guess that's the biggest thing. Yeah, when you can't look at the past, it's been
that's what I was saying.
12 years.
How you felt about it, because I do think that you actually were. So like, does it make you feel any type of way when people are just like throwing it around?
I mean, I gotta be honest. There's still sometimes I sit there and like look back at the past and go, I can't believe I fucked. Like, more and more gets exposed. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The more I separate myself from it all, the more I'm realizing,
and that's the point
that I dealt with, and it's kind of scary in ways.
Yeah,
a little bit.
So that's what this book is like. Between the stitching is like she's far removed from it.
Yes, and you can see.
And now she's like going through each. And when she wrote it, she was just like, I feel like I'm embarrassed. I don't want to tell people this. I don't want to tell people that I went through this, because their first instinct is going to be, I'm dumb.
How?
I'm stupid. I'm a doormat. I must be whatever, insecure or something. And she's like, it's not that. And so she wrote it to be like the strongest.
Is she blonde?
I think she is, yeah.
Because I think
good looking. She's
she wrote a book about it and it became very popular because
and she's on TikTok too, so I'm sure you know her. Taylor Higgins.
Yeah, I think I might have seen her.
I'm sure you've seen her.
Like, she's had success because of it. Like, he cheated on her with some young chick too or something.
It was all
it was like
he
all
was
shit.
taking videos of stuff and then keeping it on his phone, and he was having sex with guys and girls and everything. But he presented himself. All of these things.
Yeah, well,
like
that's what they do too, though. Like, they present themselves in a certain way to where a lot of people don't believe it, and there's no way. And also what they like to do too is they like to, before anyone can find out the situation, tell everyone like a whole version of it beforehand. Right?
And he was very close with his family, so he would go to his family and be like, totally tell them whatever, and then when
that's what happened. Yep.
So
I know that feeling.
It's an interesting one. I don't think that like I said, I've been in bad relationships. I've had emotional abuse, but I don't think from hearing everyone's stories
that it's diagnosable.
That it's right.
That.
So it's a different behaviors and maybe like my part and stuff and a toxicity and whatever it may be.
We all play a part no matter what, though.
Sure.
Like,
so like,
even I did.
Reading this kind of stuff will sometimes even make you feel like, oh, I thought I was.
Yeah.
But I was. Right? Yeah. This is what that is. And this is the idea of just being completely lost and almost being outside of yourself. And now that you're telling the stories, be like, I'm not even talking about me. I don't even know who this person is, but I remember it.
Yep.
So it's just different. I think there's different levels of it. And I think that, it's important to kind of say that.
Yeah, I agree. Like, to have awareness with it.
Yeah. Of like, there are people that have been through this shit, the shit that you've been through. Yeah.
People sometimes do it in a way to desensitize it or whatever, but I will say, be realistic with it.
Be realistic.
And be kind of with what you were dealing with.
Yes.
And if you played a part, which by the way, I recently
just because
posted.
Somebody cheats doesn't mean they're. Do you know what I mean?
Correct. I recently posted even on my Instagram that even I played a part in the betrayal in the situation, like by ignoring red flags, not listening to my gut and my intuition.
Sure.
Having false expectations of people. Hello. You know what I mean? Like there
wanting something so bad to be what it is.
Granted, did I deserve the end? The end all be all? No. However, is there things that I really learned from it too? To be like, these are the major fucking key takeaways. And the minute I start seeing these things, I need to get get out of there.
Yeah,
could have been prevented a lot of stuff. However,
and
a lot of times we have to learn lessons the hardest way possible.
Yeah. But I think that part of it, of taking responsibility, takes your power back. Because
It
otherwise
does.
you're just talking
It
on
does.
TikTok about being a victim. But if you start to be like, these are the things that I did that made it so that this person thought that they could treat me this way, I allowed them to, whatever, that takes your power back of like, I'm not a fucking victim, but I was in a relationship that I didn't handle so well, and therefore bad things
I was
happened.
blind to some things. I definitely learned a lot. I'm continuing to improve, and that's all you can do.
Yeah.
Shit.
We've gone way over, girl.
It's fine.
We should.
This is a good one.
This is a good one.
This is a good one.
We
This is a great marriage relationship one.
Yes. We're getting into like just Jessie
we
and
can
Tiffany
get more and more.
talking
on
the couch.
Believe me, we'll have some fun sex ones coming up.
Exactly. And we will save the Broette for next show.
I'm
and
good with that.
We're here again. We're doing a couple more shows here. Yeah. And we just did a little serious kind of one. Deep relationship
it's good.
one.
I feel like a lot of people will be able to relate to a lot of what we talked about.
We want to have something for everyone.
We do.
And then we also sprinkled in a little blowjob advice in there too. So
BJ's.
Always. All right, guys. Love you. See you tomorrow. Actually, I'll see you tonight for girls' night.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, you've been watching every move and plotting your next move on every girl I'm moving on. Yeah, don't ya better things to do? Yeah, go buy some fucking shoes. Yeah, you're irritating. You say